So I've drank straight up 2 gallons of tea today.
Nice.
So
you're gonna be pissing a lot.
Yeah, I already have been. So this will be interesting. Hello and welcome to the Watz podcast, episode 4. I am Devin.
And I'm Carson.
So today, we're not going to be discussing much news because, in all honesty, there isn't any for the most part.
Any news that matters.
Yeah, we do want to talk about one thing, mostly because I think it's funny.
Yeah, it's just more of a brief mention than talking about.
Yeah, well, I do have one thing to say about it.
All right.
So what we're talking about is the Stan Lee accusations. Now, I have steered away from talking about accusations against various other celebrities in our past episodes, and I don't want to get into it in a big thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
I more want to use this as an example of fanboyism.
Yeah.
So, in Hollywood, anybody, especially women, can point their finger at anybody and accuse them of anything, and you have to believe them, because if you don't, you're, part of the problem, you're sexist, you're whatever else, right? Now the finger has been pointed at Stan Lee, and now the fanboys are coming out of the woodwork, being like, nuh-uh, because Stan Lee is awesome, right? And I just, the only thing that I want to say about this is, with all of the movements going on right now, you have the Me Too movement, and its spin-off, the Time's Up, is that what it's called?
Yes.
Something like
Time's
that.
Up.
The Time's Up movement, that's all about, we have to deal with these problems now, right? But you have to have, you can't change your opinion based on, well, I like that guy, so he's clearly innocent, but I don't like this guy, so he's a raging asshat, right? There doesn't seem to be any consistency, and that's what's driving me fucking crazy. And also the thing about, you have to blame, or you have to believe the accuser, no matter what, is complete bullshit and completely against the Constitution.
It's against any moral semblance of justice.
Yeah, what happened to innocent until proven guilty?
That doesn't exist anymore.
No, it doesn't. You just point your finger and you say, that guy did this, and so now he just did it, whether it's true or not. It's the literal definition of a witch hunt.
Yeah.
Literally.
The case against Decapitated is a perfect example of that, because literally as soon as they were accused by this person, and they threw it out because this person's done this multiple times, and it's never been true. And as soon as it came out, everybody's like, oh, they're fucking guilty. We don't need evidence. The person who said it's right. Yeah. It's they're the perfect example of as soon as that happened, everybody just started being like, victim shaming, you can't do it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not.
If you fucking dare to even suggest that maybe the victim, again, in air quotes, is making it up, then you're victim shaming, you're an asshole, you deserve to have your life destroyed. You're not allowed to question anything. You just have to believe whenever anybody points at somebody and says, that person touched me. You just have to believe. You have to, or you're a terrible person. And it's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit.
Complete bullshit.
And it pisses me off so much, where every day is a new person that supposedly did something, and goddamn well that at least one of these accused people didn't do it. You know fucking well, but nobody cares.
Yeah, I think one of the flimsiest cases was against Brett Ratner.
Yeah.
Which was something where it's somebody said something, but nobody knows anything, it seems, and the story seems to be changing.
Well, the story changes in a lot of these.
Yeah.
It's and nobody cares. That's the thing. It's So I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this. It's just something that pisses me the fuck off, that nobody, the innocent until proven guilty concept has flown completely out the window, and we're back to the 1600s where you can just point your finger and then that person dies.
Yeah.
Metaphorically.
Salem witch trials in the modern day.
Yeah, exactly. Except now instead of literally killing that person, we just destroy their career and livelihood.
Yeah.
Right?
Whether they're guilty or not.
Whether they're guilty or not, yeah. And it's bullshit. I fucking hate it, and I hate people who take part in it because, yeah, there's no such thing as, looking up the facts anymore. Facts don't matter. It's all about, I feel this way, therefore he's guilty.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that ugliness aside, where are we sitting tonight, Carson?
Where are we sitting?
How does it look?
It's sparkly.
We're
under a sparkly glow.
We're sitting in a sparkle bath.
Yes.
And it's lovely.
It's beautiful.
The mood in here is delightful.
Yes, it makes me want to have a cup of wine.
Yeah, and we're not going to explain what that means, by the way, the sparkle bath. Just whatever picture you have in your mind.
That's what it is.
That's what it is. Just go with that. Just lay back, close your eyes, turn off the lights, and imagine yourself in a sparkle bath, and that's where we are. So, yeah,
right.
I had some things that I want to talk about this week. Again, not really any news.
No.
So it's just stuff that I've watched, stuff that I sort of neglected in 2017 in terms of movies.
Yep, because it's 2018 now.
Yeah.
So, yay, Happy New Year, fuck all of you.
We kind of already did our New Year episode.
Did we?
Yeah, remember we recorded it on Christmas.
Right, that was the end of the year roundup.
Yeah, exactly. That was the last episode, Carson.
No, because there was episode 3.
Because
episode 2 was the roundup.
Was it?
Yes. Episode 3 was when we got the new mics. And we were just testing. We spent an hour recording.
Right. Yeah.
So, I don't think we mentioned it, but...
Yeah, okay.
Anyways.
So, today I will be talking about just a few things that I've sort of been catching up on.
A few things.
Some things that I've neglected. I don't think we've ever really talked about this, but so tell me, Carson,
all right.
Are you a Star Trek guy?
My Star Trek guy?
Yeah.
Is this going to be the Star Trek or Star Wars question? Or
No.
I mean, okay, I like the original movies. I enjoy the original series for all its cheesiness and all that. And I
Next
watched.
Gen? Do you watch Next Gen?
I watched Next Gen when I was a lot younger. I think I managed to watch the entire series of it, but I was never like Star Trek is love, Star Trek is life. You know.
So okay, I guess just out of curiosity, Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Trek, if I have to choose.
Okay.
Star Wars is interesting, but it's more interesting in a concept than it is in actual reality.
Yeah. I would tend to agree. I like the original Star Trek or Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the prequels or the new movies and all the TV shows, no.
Yeah.
And I guess it's kind of similar for me when it comes to Star Trek.
Yeah.
I would even go so far as to say I love the original Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
With the exception of a few. I don't go by the rule of like every other movie. You know, people like every other movie sucks. That's not really true. The only one that I would say actively sucks is the one Shatner directed.
The fifth one?
Yeah.
I don't even remember the subtitle for that one.
Yeah.
It was
Undiscovered
something
Country.
really dumb.
No, Undiscovered Country was the sixth one.
That was the sixth one.
I don't
Voyage
remember what
Home,
it was.
I don't remember. I think that was 4.
That was 4. That was
four.
That's the best one. That's the
Yes.
one with the whales.
Okay.
But the fifth one...
I was trying to remember.
Yeah, because Leonard
Who fucking knows?
Nimoy directed Search for Spock and The Voyage Home, and they were the two most popular... No,
Wrath of
Wrath
Khan
of
is
Khan.
the most popular one.
No. Voyage
Is it
Home
not?
is the most popular. Voyage Home
Really?
made the most money. Wrath of Khan was in second place, but then... But point is, Leonard Nimoy directed Search for Spock and A Voyage Home, and then Shatner was like, well, I can fucking do it too, and directed like one of the funniest fucking movies I've ever seen, where he's like, we're gonna take the Enterprise and we're gonna find God. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna search for God.
Right.
What does
I
God
remember
need
that
with
movie.
the starship. Yeah.
Oh god.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I just wanted to sort of get your thoughts on Star Trek, because we've never talked about Star Trek actually.
No, we haven't. I guess to wrap it up, with that, I've always more gravitated towards science fiction than science fantasy.
Yeah. And yeah, that is a thing that have we talked about that?
What?
On previous podcasts, the difference between science fiction and science fantasy?
No, we have not.
Okay. Well, the best examples of science fiction and science fantasy is Star Trek is science fiction, Star Wars is science fantasy.
Exactly.
The difference being Star Trek is rooted in its science.
Except for the fifth movie.
Well, when I say science, I don't even mean like real science. I just mean like the made up science in the world controls everything. It always goes back to their science.
Whereas Star Wars doesn't even follow its own in-universe rules.
Well, Star Wars is science fantasy. Science fantasy is usually more sort of mysticism, you know, so the Force, right? And it's more based in that sort of stuff. So
it's sort of like an accentuated Sinbad in space.
Yeah. So I would say that I gravitate towards science fiction as well. Science fantasy is fun, but I enjoy the more rule-based worlds of science fiction. Yeah. You know, so your 2001s and whatnot.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Or at least the original.
The original, yeah. Anyway, the reason I bring this up is because there are 2 shows now that are sort of competing in this space, right? You have the new Star Trek series,
Discovery or whatever it's called,
right? Because it's STD, which everybody loves making fun of. Yeah. And you have Seth MacFarlane's Orville.
Yep. Which I've not watched yet, but I want to see.
Okay. That's what we're going to talk about.
All right.
That's what we're going to talk about because it's almost a good thing that you haven't seen it, I think.
Yeah.
Because this will be an interesting conversation. So for reference, have not seen the new Star Trek series, and it looks just like sort of a miserable nightmare of people being depressed. Like that's what that series looks like to me.
Worse than what was that, Deep Space Nine, that Star Trek series or whatever that was? That was on a space station that sucked.
I don't really even know anything about Deep Space Nine, but yeah, the new Star Trek just looks like it's trying to be Star Wars.
It does. And the makeup effects managed to get worse as well.
Oh my god, the new Klingons look fucking bizarre to me. Where it's like, why did we have to change it? We hit a good stride with the Klingons in
Next Generation.
Next Gen. Why do we need to change it?
Yeah. Fucking not my Worf.
Yeah, not my Worf. Anyway, so you have that, right? Which is sort of a dark, miserable, brooding, depressing story.
It's a Zack Snyder show, obviously.
Yeah. And then you have the Orville, which is, I think, siphoning a lot of the Star Trek fans who are put off by the new show.
Yeah.
Because the Orville is much closer to what you would expect Star Trek to be.
Yeah. As well as making fun of it is...
It doesn't really.
Really? It doesn't? Okay, it looks like it does. And
yes,
Seth MacFarlane has a tendency to make fun of it.
So let's actually get into this.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me what your expectations of the show are.
At the moment, for the Orville or the Star Trek?
Orville. We're talking about Orville, not Star Trek.
It looks more like a lighthearted, fun show with some typical Seth MacFarlane jokes thrown in.
Okay, but what would you expect its relationship to Star Trek?
Relationship?
Yeah.
Coming from Seth MacFarlane, I'd expect more of a parody than, I guess, a serious show.
Okay.
You know, instead of trying to be Star Trek, it's trying to make fun of Star Trek, I guess.
Okay.
If we're going there.
It's not.
All right.
It's not at all. And this is what blew my mind. All right. Now, the first 2 episodes, kinda. But even then, not really. So the first 2 episodes set up all of the characters, right? And it takes a lot from Star Trek. Now, having not, I guess I should say that I've seen some episodes of the original series. It never really interested me. I've seen some episodes of Next Gen. It never really interested me. I like the movies, not the shows. Yeah. Right? So I guess that's important for me to say.
Very important.
And not even the Next Gen movies. Nah. I like the original 6 movies with the original crew. those are the movies that I like.
For me, the Next Gen movies weren't even memorable enough for me to know how many there are or anything.
The only one that's even vaguely memorable is Nemesis, because it has
that
Tom
was
Hardy
Next
in
Gen.
it. It has Tom Hardy in it,
Yep.
who's actually not bad in it. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so Orville, it sets up the characters.
Yeah.
And I had the same expectations of you, which was, okay, this is going to be Seth MacFarlane humor on Fox again, so they'll let him get away with it. It's going to be Family Guy style humor.
Family Guy in space.
Yeah, it's going to be
which they already did.
It's going to be Family Guy style humor, set in a Star Trek world, basically, with a different name. And it's not. And that's what really blew my mind. Like, for the most part, they take it seriously. It has jokes. It's definitely more lighthearted than Star Trek was.
Yeah.
And Star Trek had jokes too.
For sure.
Star Trek wasn't like 100% super serious, which is why this new Star Trek is just blowing everyone's mind, because they're like, why is it so dark and depressing? Yeah. Star Trek was light, and bright and fun and adventurous. Yeah. It wasn't all fucked up and everybody's miserable and all the characters are assholes.
Yeah. From the trailer, I could tell just right off, this is not what Gene Roddenberry would have wanted.
No, not at all. No, the Orville is way closer to what Gene Roddenberry would have wanted. Yeah. And that's what I watched all 12 episodes of the first season. And I really enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. I like the characters. I like Seth MacFarlane more than I thought I would, because Seth MacFarlane, when it comes to live action, has been
very spotty.
Questionable, especially when it comes to, what was it, 1,000 Ways to Die in the West? Or
Million Ways to Die in the West.
Million Ways to Die in the West. Yeah.
That was questionable. I enjoyed it more than I know you did.
But still, if you look at him, he looks like he's just playing dress up. Like, oh, that's Seth MacFarlane in a cowboy costume. It doesn't look like a character.
No.
And that's kind of how
That's why Ted was better.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Seth MacFarlane is in his element when he's doing voice acting.
Yep.
And so that's why I didn't really expect to like him in this. He's not doing any voices of of any other characters. He's just playing the live action character of the captain, right?
Yeah.
And I started watching it, and the first episode, I was like, okay, there's some Seth MacFarlane-y stuff here, sort of like kind of awkward humor. Like, one of the things that shows up in the trailer for it
is the slime thing. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, well, there is that, right? And by the way, that slime character I thought was only going to be there as a one-off gag. He's an actual character.
Really?
Yeah, he's an actual character.
That's crazy.
And I like him. He doesn't have a whole lot to do, but I like him. He's a decent character. He's always hitting on the nurse. It's kind of cute in a way, and the nurse hates him. And it's funny, but not in a gross way, not in a Family Guy way.
Yeah,
there's that. But the scene I was talking about was when he's sitting across the desk from his superior, and he goes like, "Can I have one of these mints?" And he puts it in his mouth, and he's like, "Those are marbles," and Seth MacFarlane spits it out. I'm like, okay, 1, not that funny. 2, why would he have just a bowl of marbles on his like, that's really fucking,
that's very Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah. And so I expected the show to be like that. It's really not. It's like the only way Seth MacFarlane, and this is just my feelings based on what I'm seeing, so don't take this as like true, but how I feel watching the show is like, the only way Seth MacFarlane could get Fox to make it is if he sold it to them as a comedy. So the first couple episodes, he just like shoves comedy into it, and then it just turns into a Star Trek series.
So he sort of front loaded it to get it greenlit.
Pretty much. That's what it feels like to me. Because when you hit the third episode, it's just a drama. Huh. Like, the third episode is literally just a drama.
That's crazy.
It's not like super intense drama. It's still very lighthearted.
Yeah.
But yeah, the third episode deals entirely with one of the crew members, and I don't remember what they say this crew member's species is, but he's sort of the Worf of the crew.
Yeah.
He comes from a species that only has males, right? Not even gonna question like the science behind how this functions. Not important. But the point is, females are only born like 1 in 4 billion or whatever. Like, they're incredibly rare. You only get like a female born every 75 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And so this crew member has a baby with his partner.
Yeah.
And it's a female. So the episode is about, his partner wants to change the baby's sex into a male, right? Because that's what the species does. When there's a female born, they look at it as a birth defect and they change it. And so the whole episode is a conversation about, well, if a baby's born with a cleft palate, you fix that, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, but that's different because it's not, blah, blah, blah. And it's this back and forth drama about, do we let our crew member do this, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was really interesting, and it goes through like a court thing on that species planet where they're like, no, we have to change it and blah. And I expected the end of the episode to be like, yay, we're victorious, we're not changing the baby's sex, and then she's going to grow up to be a happy, girl and make her way in the world. Spoilers, no, they are forced to change the baby's sex into a male. And I thought that was really interesting because they subverted that expectation, and it was really interesting to see coming from Seth MacFarlane, right? Not that this was like a hard-hitting commentary on sexuality and transgenderism or anything, but to not go the easy route, right? Yeah. To not go the route of like, yay, we're victorious. Yeah. We're not changing her sex. No, they're literally forced to do it because it's how that species functions. Like, they just see being a woman as a birth defect, so they fix it. And I thought that was really interesting. And you keep going from there, and there are a lot of like interesting storylines. Like they run into a pocket in space that is actually a 2-dimensional universe. Trying to think of some of the others. Yeah, I don't know. Like they have sort of a Black Mirror-ish episode where they find a society that functions basically like Reddit, where it's like you just give people upvotes and downvotes, and if you get a certain amount of downvotes, then you're seen as a criminal, right?
That is very Black Mirror.
And so I think they did it better than Black Mirror.
Yeah. Well,
we're not even.
I'm going to reserve my thoughts
on
on Black Mirror because I have some very strong thoughts that go against the popular.
So do I. But yeah, I really liked it, and it feels so much more like Star Trek than the actual Star Trek series does right now, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
And it's really good to see that Seth MacFarlane has more in him, you know what I mean, than to just do Family Guy style comedy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess it shouldn't be too surprising. We know that Seth MacFarlane is pretty into science and education. He produces Neil deGrasse Tyson's series.
Yeah. Cosmos.
Yeah, Cosmos. He produces Cosmos. So I guess it shouldn't be too surprising, but it kind of is. And I will say, the first few episodes, just like Million Ways to Die in the West, it kind of did feel like this is Seth MacFarlane's fan fiction, and he just wants to play Star Trek with his friends, and they're going to dress up in costumes, right? Yeah. But the further along the series you go, you realize, like, Seth MacFarlane isn't just trying to make himself the main character and just on screen all the time. There are some episodes that he's barely in. They give screen time to the other characters. I think in these 12 episodes, every one of the main crew has an episode all to themselves. So they built characters well because they give them time. Seth MacFarlane isn't just stealing the spotlight, which I feared he would. It has blood in it, which blew my mind. Like, there's an episode where one of the crew members gets shot and there's blood. I was like, holy fuck, they won't even put blood in Marvel movies. But here it is in a lighthearted, Seth MacFarlane comedy, in air quotes.
That's very fascinating.
It's not one note like I feared it would be. Every episode feels different. It's got a different thing going on, which is really cool.
I think hearing about this now just makes me want to go watch it more. It sounds very fascinating.
Oh, no, I totally recommend you watch it. And I know that some people have been complaining that it sort of rehashes a lot of old Star Trek material and that like it sort of mashes some of it together in different ways and things like that. And so that's something that people have been complaining about. But me having not seen all those episodes, I don't really give a shit. Orville does them well, so I don't really care that it's a rehash. And I think it's interesting that the Star Trek community would call it a rehash instead of a ripoff. That's very interesting to me. Because normally you would think like, oh, that fucking new show that just wants to be Star Trek. But people don't seem to have that attitude towards it. People seem to at least see that it's not trying to rip it off. You know, it's made by people who actually like Star Trek and wanted to make Star Trek. And I think the fact that the current Star Trek series is not Star Trek doesn't hurt anything, right?
Yeah.
Because people are gravitating towards Orville because of the two shows, it's more Star Trek, you know? And so I think people are more lenient on it and allowing it to sort of encroach on that territory.
Yeah. And saying rehashing, I think I want to state that rehashing's not necessarily a bad thing either, especially if it does it well.
Yeah, no. If it does it well, like, let's be honest here. The original series is how fucking old now? You know what I mean?
Early 60s, I think.
Yes.
Late 60s,
So,
I don't remember.
Are we not allowed to retell any of those stories at this point? Like, really? Really? Is it too soon? No. You know, and they do it well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by it. I expected to watch the first, maybe the second episode and be like, okay, I get it, and move on. But no, I happily watched all 12 episodes, and I will happily watch season 2. I was really surprised because it's really not my kind of thing. Like, episodic TV shows generally don't grab me.
Yeah.
I like Doctor Who, and this does have sort of a Doctor Who feel to it.
Okay, I have watched maybe 3 episodes of Doctor Who, and that's it. So
okay. This has a little tiny bit of a Doctor Who feel to it, but it's definitely more Star Trek than it is Doctor Who.
All right.
But generally, like, episodic TV shows, or, like I said, I didn't watch any of the Star Trek series.
Yeah.
Right? So it really surprised me that I got into this one. But I did. And, yeah, I like the characters. I like the people playing them. I like Seth MacFarlane in it. Yeah, and I highly recommend that if you were like me going, oh, it's fucking Seth MacFarlane playing Star Trek, go watch it. Give it 3 episodes. If you don't get sucked into it by the 3rd episode, then okay, fine. But I think most people will if they give it a chance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I highly recommend that you go watch it.
And I will.
So, before I move on to my next 2 movies that I want to talk about,
all right.
Have you been watching anything? Movie or otherwise?
Movie or otherwise? I've watched a few things, nothing really, spectacular of there, aside from I've started rewatching Full Metal Alchemist again.
The original?
The original.
Okay, so not Brotherhood.
No, but
Good.
Netflix keeps annoying me. Hey, look, Brotherhood's here too. First of all, I think that people should know we both hate Brotherhood as a series.
We haven't really discussed it all that
No.
much. But, yeah, and I don't want to get into it, and I know this is going to open a can of worms,
Oh, yeah.
but I violently hate Brotherhood. And,
I'm in the same boat here. Like,
Brotherhood destroys everything about
Yeah.
the original that made it a masterpiece. And yeah, I don't want to get into it. That's something that could be its own
Yeah.
podcast. Like, we could make an entire 4-hour podcast on why I believe that.
yeah.
We're not going to do it right now.
No. But what's I guess interesting for me is I tend to, when I watch anime, I don't usually watch the English dub first, because I enjoy watching things in their own native language. It sort of goes to the fact that when a movie's showing a German person, I expect them to be speaking German and not in a British accent.
Oh, you mean not like Boy in Striped Pajamas? Not like that movie?
No, not at all.
Okay.
But I was watching it in English, and I realized that I actually am pleasantly surprised by all of the voices. I don't really find a voice that I don't like.
The English dub of Full Metal Alchemist is fantastic.
Yes.
It is great. Yeah.
And for me, I'm a fan of Vic Mignogna, who plays the main character, Edward Elric.
Ed. Yeah.
And I really like his voice, so that was a surprise.
Great. And Al is fantastic. Like, both of the main characters, the actors who play them in the English dub are fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really have too much to say about that other than the animation's fantastic in that as well.
Yeah, I don't get, like, people get shitty about the animation in the original. They're like, oh, it was low budget. That's why Brotherhood is better, because they had more budget, and so the animation is better. No, it fucking isn't.
No.
So it's slightly shinier. Like, the animation in the original is more than fine. It's fine animation. Like, I don't understand what people's fucking problem is.
I don't know, and I'm lucky enough to not have come across too many people that talk about Full Metal Alchemist anymore, so that I have to have that conversation.
Yeah, me too. I will actively avoid talking to people about Full Metal Alchemist because I don't want to have to sit there for 5 fucking hours and explain to them every reason why Brotherhood is trash.
And listen to them close their ears and say, no, no, no.
Yeah. I am... So, both me and Francisco plan on making a full review and comparison between Brotherhood and the original at some point.
Francisco is the foreigner that we have not mentioned up till this point.
Yes, I guess I should mention that. Francisco is my boyfriend.
Yep.
We have plans with him for other projects, but in terms of him and I, we plan to be making reviews at some point. I don't know when those are going to come because they're going to be labor intensive.
Oh yeah,
as has been proven by our attempts thus far. But Full Metal Alchemist versus Brotherhood will be one of them at some point. He feels even stronger about it than I do, I think. So that'll be fun when that happens. Anyway, been watching anything else?
Aside from that, I've gone and I watched a few other movies, all animated, and then some live action films.
Okay.
I will talk about the animated ones first.
Okay.
That
was really robotic. I have watched some animated. I have watched some live action.
Hey.
I shall now commence talking about the live action ones.
Quit making fun of how I talk, goddammit.
Anyway, continue.
Anyways, I watched a movie called Porco Rosso
the
other night, which is a Studio Ghibli film.
That I introduced you to.
You introduced
me to.
Which
I should point out, I have not seen it. So...
Which is funny, because I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just realized I never told you that I hadn't actually seen it. I know pretty much generally everything about it.
Yeah.
I just haven't sat down and watched it because I haven't had a good copy of it until now.
Yes, and you have me to thank.
Yes, thank you.
So, really good film. It's one that I do not hear a lot of people when they bring up, classic Studio Ghibli films.
I don't think
that
most
they talk
people
about
know
a lot,
about it.
Which is surprising, because it's really fucking good.
Okay.
Like, I mean, everybody talks about, Spirited Away or Kiki's Delivery Service or My Neighbor Totoro.
Kiki's Delivery Service?
I've heard a lot of Kiki.
Really?
A lot of Kiki's, yes.
A lot of people like Kiki's Delivery Service?
Apparently.
I just love how you went for Kiki's Delivery Service and not Spirited Away.
I said Spirited Away first.
I thought you said Princess Mononoke.
No, I did not say Princess Mononoke.
Well, then you went for Kiki's Delivery Service instead of Princess Mononoke.
I don't hear a lot of people talking about Princess Mononoke.
I'm going to kick somebody's ass. Princess Mononoke is amazing.
It is a fantastic film.
Like, okay, so what's the director, not the studio?
It's Miyazaki.
Yeah, the Miyazaki trilogy, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle. Yes. Go watch all 3 of those movies if you haven't seen it.
Howl's Moving Castle is one that I don't hear a lot of people talk about either.
I have issues with Howl's Moving Castle. It's a little bit inconsistent in its rules, but anyway. So, Porco Rosso.
So it is very, as most Studio Ghibli movies are, it is very well animated film.
Yeah, sure.
I don't find really any problem with it. It's a diesel punk film about a about a pilot during the interwar period before the rise of Benito Mussolini in Italy.
Did you watch it in Japanese or English?
I watched it in English, I think.
Okay, so you watched it with what's his name who plays the main character?
I don't remember.
Mr. Mom. Okay,
Yeah.
Mr. Mom plays the main character. Birdman.
Yeah, Michael Keaton.
Yeah, Keaton.
There we go.
Thank you.
I like his voice a lot in that.
Sure.
It's a very fascinating film. I haven't looked into it too much as of yet.
In terms of like the making of and everything.
Yeah, in terms of the making of. So I don't know too much behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from having watched it, I don't have too much to say about it, except it's a fucking fantastic film that everybody should see.
Okay.
It needs more recognition. Like, it's severely underrated.
Okay.
And along with that, I watched Metropolis, the 2001 animated film from Toho.
Yeah, the anime version of Metropolis, not the 1920s.
1927's one.
Yeah, not the 1927 silent film.
Though that is a good silent film.
Sure. So what did you think of the animated version?
It's really wonderfully animated. It's pretty much Metropolis from 1927 with typical Japanese tropes thrown in for anime. And it works really well. I think the directing was really well done on that, which is something that I don't think we've ever covered is in anything that we've done is directing in animation versus live action.
Yeah, it's very different.
It's very different in the fact that the director has more of a say in animation than they do in live action, I would think. Or at least from my experience from that.
It would depend on the director, I guess. Because, I mean, you're not going to tell me, like, Stanley Kubrick had little say in his movies. You know what I mean? Or Christopher Nolan. Or,
in terms of controlling, more of, what goes into it than a typical director.
I guess because literally everything is
imagined.
Everything is imagined and nothing is like you're never at the behest of your surroundings or people. You can make the character do and behave any way you want. Sure. Yeah.
So there was a lot more interesting choices in, I guess, scenery in how they chose to portray the Art Deco style that a lot of diesel punk takes after.
Sure.
Like the backgrounds in that, there were some that it's like, I could get this, framed and put it on a wall and it's a piece of art.
Yeah. A lot of the animation in it reminds me of Akira.
It does.
The character style. Yeah. And Akira is another one that like you could pluck any frame out of it and sell it as high art.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have anything else to say about Metropolis before we move on, or animation in general?
No, I was just gonna ask that you seem to be on a diesel punk kick.
Right, that's something.
Because
before, I think a few months ago, I had no clue that diesel punk existed, and then you introduced me to it with Porco Rosso and Metropolis, which I don't think you've seen. Have you seen the animated Metropolis?
No, I haven't seen the Metropolis yet.
Yes, but you told me that both of those existed, and I went and watched them.
Yeah, well...
And I got more into looking into the actual genre of diesel punk.
And also, Full Metal Alchemist is like diesel punk also.
It's very diesel punk. It takes place interwar in Europe.
Yeah, I would still call it light.
It's very light.
It's not like really hardcore diesel punk.
No.
The diesel punk setting takes a back seat to... the whole alchemy thing. Yeah, diesel punk, like, I thought it was funny when you were like, I just discovered this new thing called diesel punk, and I was like dude, that's shit. Like an entire fucking genre, especially in anime.
I know, and I knew sort of, of the tropes of it, but I had no idea what it was called.
Okay.
I sort of knew that all the tropes were related, but I had no idea they actually had a name for it.
So, yeah, we should say briefly what diesel punk is essentially, most people know what steampunk is, right? So if you imagine steampunk, except diesel, right? It's literally that.
Okay, so Victorian versus in between World War II, or World War I and World War II.
Yeah, so steampunk is Victorian era, generally. And diesel punk is between World War I, World War II, up the rise of machines.
Sometimes it even includes like the Korean War. Sometimes
sure, but the general atmosphere of it is again like diesel and fuel and burning smoke and machinery and iron.
Yeah, it's something I do have a problem with the genre in that it has the tropes of it and everything, but it's very loose in what can be included in that. Because when I think about it, I'm thinking, that burning steel and diesel. I'm thinking, 1930s Nazi Germany and the crazy bullshit they came up with and,
Sure.
oppressed people. Whereas steampunk's more lighthearted in that,
Yeah.
it's more upbeat and generally, everything ends on a happy note generally.
Well, diesel punk is typically darker, I think, generally anyway. Not that Porco Rosso, I think, is particularly dark, but yeah, diesel punk is a very cool genre. It's not one that I've spent a whole lot of time with, just because, I don't know.
Yeah.
I dip into the punk genres every now and then. Diesel punk, steampunk, cyberpunk. There are definitely things from each of these genres that I like, but I wouldn't consider myself like really into one or another.
Yeah, which I find it more interesting because I'm more in that world of the punk genres than you are. Mm-hmm. There's a lot works that I'm looking at, and I can identify which punk category they go in, such as Akira. It's a mixture of cyberpunk and biopunk.
Yeah.
And I find that
Ghost
really
in the
interesting.
Shell is cyberpunk through and through.
Oh yeah, Ghost in the Shell is very cyberpunk.
Oh, and Serial Experiments Lane, which you haven't seen, that is 100% cyberpunk, and it is fucked up.
Yeah, I need to watch that though.
Yeah. Oh, we should watch it together sometime.
Yeah.
Because I want to see it again. I have it on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
So
nice.
yeah, we'll watch that. Anyway.
So yes, it's a very interesting genre. It has a subgenre called Atom Punk in it, which I found fascinating. The only difference is Atom Punk is more like Fallout.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's gonna be like your Fallouts and
Wasteland.
Yeah. Oh god damn it! And what's that other one that's like in Russia? I think
Russia.
The game. Metro.
Oh, Metro. Yep. There you go. I found out something new, and we discussed it here live.
Okay. Anyway,
but
so I guess moving on from that, then
moving on to horror now.
Horror.
Shitty
in
horror.
Air quotes.
It's body horror, I guess you call it more.
Right. So the guinea pig films. So
and this isn't the American series either. This is the Japanese series.
So why don't you explain like the idea of these movies?
Okay, the idea is very interesting because it retains sort of the same idea, but it definitely changes between the movies. Mm-hmm. If you know what Saw is, imagine Saw but taken a lot more seriously with a lot better effects and not as modern day.
See, because Saw, so the traps in Saw sort of came around in the second one.
Yes.
They weren't really a part of the first one.
No.
But even the first one still had like a it had a story and characters and sort of like a mystery in it.
Yeah.
The guinea pig films
it depends on the film because the first two don't really, but after that there definitely is that.
Okay, well the first two at least are way more just blunt. Like you guys just want to see fucked up gore, so here's fucked up gore with hardly any story.
The first two are essentially 80-minute long torture scenes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Where a killer or killers have kidnapped a person or people and decided, how many ways can we take you apart before you die?
Yeah, and it's literally... Isn't one of them just like a naked Japanese chick sort of on a table?
That is the second one.
That's the second one?
I don't know where or why I had heard this and decided to go back to them. Mm. Was about the story of how Charlie Sheen back in the 80s saw the second one titled Flowers of Flesh and Blood.
And he thought it was an actual snuff film.
And so he contacted the FBI and there was an investigation on that. So I was hearing that, I'm like, that was really interesting, just hearing about it again. I'm going to go watch them, just see what he's talking about. Watching them again, the effects are so dated.
They're cheesy, right?
They're very cheesy.
But yeah, I wanted to say about like the second one, if you have any interest in these kind of movies, don't go into it and expect like oh, it's going to be a cheesy story, and
No.
no, literally, there's not a story. Like at least in
Not
the second one,
not the first or second one.
right? There is not a story. It is literally a camera pointed at a naked Japanese chick as people hack limbs off of her. That's for
in the
80
second
minutes.
one. It's only one person.
Whatever.
Yeah,
But you get
And
my point. It's just that for
Yeah.
80 minutes. There's no story.
And it's one person dressed up as a shogun.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. It's
Yeah.
literally gore for the sake of gore. Fuck the story.
Yeah.
Fuck any characters. Just point a camera at a naked Japanese chick and hack limbs off of her. And that's a
Yes.
movie, apparently.
That's the second film, yes.
Yeah.
The third film takes an interesting deviation, and it's about a man discovers that he cannot die and decides, you know what, fuck it, let's see how much I can hurt myself. And he turns into sort of like this weird superhero.
That sounds kind of great. I'm going to be honest with you.
Oh my god, it's so fucking cheesy, but it's one of those movies that I look at it and I go, this is just hilarious.
This
This
sounds
is actually
hilarious,
fun
yeah.
to watch.
Yeah. That's interesting given what the first two movies are.
Yeah. And then the fourth movie takes a weird turn in a man discovers a mermaid has like beached and keeps her in the bathtub.
I've heard of this one. I've heard of this. Yeah.
Yeah. And the movies get weirder from there.
All
and
right.
like, it's something you just can't, because there's like 8 of these films.
Oh my god. Of course there are.
And it's movies that to fully understand, you just have to watch them. Keep in mind that the first 2 are just like meant to be just really fucked up torture scenes.
Yeah.
And then from there, it just gets really cheesy and weird.
Fascinating. Okay.
So
Are you going through all of them?
I've already rewatched all of them.
Oh.
So
Okay. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
well, because I'd only ever seen the first 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, you know what? I might as well watch the rest of them, whatever. And I wasn't expecting the third one to take such a comedic tone of man finds out he can't die. Let's see what crazy shit he can get into.
Yeah, I've never seen these films, but they are, at least the first 2 are sort of infamous. So
Yeah.
I really don't have an interest in them. It's not my kind of stuff. I like dark and fucked up, but you gotta give me like a really solid story and characters.
Yeah, and the most story you get in the first 2 are person kidnaps somebody and then tortures them.
Yeah. When I say...
They try and set up a story in the intro credits, but there is no story, really.
Yeah. See, when I say I like dark and fucked up, I'll watch the most fucked up, heinous shit.
Oh, yeah.
But it has to have a story to support it. So, Seven or Silence of the Lambs or any of the Hannibal movies, really. Yeah, give me a story, and I will watch anything that you can throw at me, but you have to give me a story. You know what I mean? I'm not just going to sit here for 80 minutes and watch one scene of a woman being slowly dismembered.
In cheesy 80s fashion.
Not that it even grosses me out. It's just boring.
Yeah.
It's just fucking boring.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's one of those movies that ends up on everybody's most disturbing movie of all time list. But when you really sit down and watch it, you start to question why. Why people think this is so disturbing. Because it's really, honestly, you can't take it seriously when you see the effects.
That's true of most movies that people put on the most disturbing movies list.
A Serbian film.
Yeah, a Serbian film. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that most people don't know what a Serbian film is.
Probably
not. Briefly, the idea of a Serbian film is that a
porn actor,
a porn star who, a porn production company hires him to do a movie
and he's so down on his luck and out of money that he accepts whatever they offer him.
He accepts whatever they offer him, but he goes onto the set and they start filming, and they didn't tell him what would happen, and it's super weird and artsy, but then takes a really hard turn to the fucked up very quickly, right? And he wants out, and things go crazy, and the porn that they want him to be in gets more and more fucked up to the point where they're like, I've invented a new genre of porn. It's called newborn porn.
And that is literally a line from the movie.
It is. It's a line where he says, I've invented a new genre of porn. I'm calling it newborn porn, where they fuck newborn babies to death.
And it's just comical to watch.
Well, they don't really show that, to be
No.
clear. They allude to it very graphically, but yeah, most of it, like, when you're to the point of how can we be disturbing, I know, we're gonna fuck newborns to death, it just becomes comical.
Yeah.
You can't take that shit seriously anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, and by the time you get to the end of the movie, dude literally has a 3-foot dick. I mean, literally, he stabs a guy's eye, like, he stabs through a guy's eyeball into his brain with his 3-foot dick and kills him. And, like, when you're at that point of trying to be disturbing, it's just funny.
Yeah.
Like, you can't take it seriously.
Like,
You're
I'm over here laughing just thinking about that
because
movie.
it's fucking hilarious. It's not disturbing. It's so over the top and trying so hard that it just turns out being fucking hilarious.
The fact that it claims that it's a statement on the country.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the whole thing is just completely ridiculous. You can't take it seriously. It's not disturbing. It's not scary. It's just stupid.
It's my same thoughts that I have on the Human Centipede movies.
I was going to say Hostel.
Hostel as well.
At least a Serbian film is interesting. Hostel is just boring.
Mm-hmm.
A Serbian
As
film
like
is,
most Eli Roth
a
films.
Serbian film is interesting in how hard it's trying and the crazy shit it can come up with.
Yeah.
Hostel is just boring. Yeah.
It's-
and Human Centipede
yeah.
is just stupid.
Hostel's content with just sitting in the little box of unmade Legos. You know, like the box of Lego pieces that's
What?
there. Okay, so the movie is just content with being there with ideas, but not actually doing anything with the ideas. That's interesting.
Yeah, not building anything.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. It's surrounded by the pieces that it does nothing with.
Yeah.
But even then, like, even if you just take Hostel for what it is, the effects are fucking terrible.
Oh my god.
You know what I
So
mean?
dumb.
Like,
There's so
the effects in Hostel are awful. I don't understand how anybody's disturbed by them. At least the effects in a Serbian film are good.
yeah,
Right?
decent.
They're decent. But there's not really an effect in a Serbian film that I look at it and I'm like, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
Even his 3-foot cock, it looks real. It's just hilarious.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't look like a bad effect. It just looks like an over-the-top effect.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, Hostel,
It's dumb.
Human Centipede, like they're just stupid. Like even in this genre, they're just stupid and uninteresting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes,
Is that all you've been watching? Anime and
and torture
anime
porn.
and torture porn? That's it.
That's really the only things of note that I can remember.
Truly, you are an otaku.
That's all I've watched. The only other thing I've done, somebody on Game Jolt, who's a game developer, decided to remake Sad Satan without all the bad shit in it.
Sad Satan.
It's a horror maze game
Yes.
That-
Okay, yeah.
is built in an engine called the Terror Engine, which is a engine specifically made for horror games that was built in Unity.
Right. It was a game engine built inside of a game engine, which
is free for you to download.
It should give you some idea of the kind of quality we're looking at when we're talking about this engine. Yeah.
But the original game, I'll give you some backstory. There was videos uploaded to YouTube by Horror something channel, like Horror Game Central or something like that. I don't remember what the fuck it's called.
Well,
But-
there's plenty of videos on it.
No, this is the original. This was uploaded and claimed to be a real game.
Okay.
And the download, there was a download link supposedly in the description, which was removed. But it was later proven to be a fake game.
Okay.
And then somebody on 4chan made
Of
a
course.
copy of it that decided to include...
Okay, hold on. Before you say this,
Yes.
the thing about the game is you're supposed to walk around the maze and then you'll just be randomly and arbitrarily jump scared.
Yes.
Right? And
There
when I
is
say
supposed-
jump scare,
yeah.
I mean like 90s style screamer kind of jump
Yeah.
scare.
Though that's the remake, I don't think any of that popped up in the original.
Okay.
I think the original was just had the fucked up sounds.
Oh, okay. Well, the idea of the playable game that most people got their hands on, it was just you walk around the maze and then you just get screamered, right?
Yes.
Now,
The screamers were gore porn and child porn.
Yes.
And the game also contained a botnet virus that acted as a node for somebody to do whatever they wanted to with your networking computer.
So yeah, basically it was a horrifically illegal game.
Yep.
Basically, because
That was released on 4chan of all places.
Of course it was released on 4chan, and it was just full of child porn.
Oh yeah, child porn and gore porn.
Yeah.
But then somebody by the Reddit username of Blind Stark took that original file, cleaned out the viruses, cleaned out the gore and child porn, and then uploaded a clean copy to Reddit, which you can play. Nobody really knew it existed because of YouTuber PewDiePie played that version and didn't make any mention. So everybody went and managed to download the child porn riddled version.
Right, which is when it became famous.
Yes.
Yeah, because everybody downloaded the wrong version of it that they didn't know existed.
Yes. Which brings us to 2016, which a Game Jolt developer, Game Jolt being a platform for people to release indie games on, one of the users on that decided to do a remake of the original game that was the videos. And he was the one who proved they were fake in the first place by explaining how they were made. And so he remade it in the Terror engine and released it on Game Jolt. And it's free to download. And I played through it. It's very interesting. It's a weird look at the new game. I don't know much of the original, but the new game sort of put in the intention that humanity was a shit species.
Okay.
That was sort of the idea of the wrong version, was that humanity's fucked up and will do anything for entertainment.
Okay.
And so he sort of put that in and put a weird happy ending to it.
I have a question though. Did the FBI never do anything about this game?
The Canadian authorities did.
The Canadian authorities.
Because some ordinary gamer, Mutahar, played it and then reported it to the Canadian authorities, and they were the ones to take it down from 4chan.
Oh, so it has been taken down.
Yes.
Because that's something that always seems...
It got re-uploaded plenty of times, though.
Because that's something that always seemed bizarre to me, is like, I keep hearing about a game that's just filled with child porn, but you never hear about anybody doing anything about it. You would think the FBI would be all over that shit.
Yeah. So I played through the Game Jolt version of it, which was supposed to be more in line with the original that never existed.
The version that isn't filled with child porn.
Yes. And it's a very short, interesting experience. As a game, it's a boring walking simulator with jump scares.
That's the other thing that should be said. Like, the game isn't interesting, really. You just walk around a dark maze.
Yeah, the only interesting thing comes when you actually try and examine the cipher messages that pop up as jump scares sometimes. And when you decipher those, it sort of gives you the story of it, and that's more interesting than anything.
The story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, story as in, why the game exists.
Okay, so next I wanted to talk about two other things that I watched.
All right.
2 movies. I want to talk about I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore.
All right.
And Gerald's Game.
All right.
Now,
neither I've heard of.
Some astute listeners may be saying, has he been watching Red Letter Media? And to you, I would say, yes. Yes, I have. Because, both of these movies and Orville, what made me want to watch them was Red Letter Media. So,
of course,
yes, I'm stealing their content. We're talking about this. So, I want to talk about Gerald's Game first.
All right.
Gerald's Game is a Stephen King story.
Right, it is.
Yes, it is. And I didn't really know what to expect going into it. I had never heard of the story, and I didn't know what to expect from the director.
Yeah.
He's directed a couple other horrors. God, I cannot remember. Oh, Oculus. He directed Oculus.
Oh, all right.
And which I haven't seen. So I didn't really know what to expect going into this. I was pleasantly surprised. It's one of the best Stephen King movies to come out in quite some time.
That's
now,
fascinating.
To be clear, it's not The Green Mile. It's not Shawshank Redemption.
It's not it.
Right? I liked it better than it.
You did?
Well, I mean, it's very different. It's really an unfair comparison, but
Yeah.
in terms of it being a Stephen King adaptation, it was better. So the basic story is a woman and her husband go out into the woods to have sort of a getaway and try to save their marriage. Right? The husband is into some kinky shit that the wife did not know about or did not want to take part in. He handcuffs her to the bed. So both of her hands handcuffed to, away from each other on the bedpost. And he is trying to fuck her, and she's very uncomfortable with it. They sort of get into an argument, and he ends up having a heart attack and dying, leaving her handcuffed to the bed.
What is this, Antichrist?
No, and how fucking dare you, sir? Antichrist is trash. This was a good movie. Anyway, so the movie was just pretty much about her trying to survive being handcuffed to the bed, right? And it deals with her psyche in a very interesting way. It deals with her past, and because it's a Stephen King story, of course her father molested her.
Yep.
God,
wait, was there any murdered children in this?
No, shockingly.
I'm surprised.
There were murders, but not a child.
I'm disappointed in you, Stephen King.
But the movie was about her dealing with her past and what her father had done to her. It was about her dealing with her husband and how little she felt that she knew about him and how they were growing apart. And it was about her trying to survive because she's just handcuffed to this bed. She can't get away. So she's using this, glass of water that was on a shelf right above her that she managed to get a hold of. She had to craft a straw out of like a piece of paper because she couldn't actually reach the water all the way to her face. And that kind of stuff was dealt with really interestingly. And it was really nice to see, that kind of situation dealt with intelligently. Yeah. Because normally they're not. You know what I mean? A person trapped in small location is a kind of movie that I really like. Person trying to survive in one location. I love those movies. They're very rarely done well. This one was done well. It had a dog that was basically just eating her husband the whole time while she was on the bed. And so there was this sort of threat of like, is the dog going to try to eat her? Yeah. And that was dealt with really well. I expected it to just go Cujo, but it didn't. The dog was actually likable, which was interesting because it was eating her husband. But it was done in a way where they weren't trying to make the dog a monster. No. The dog was just a starving dog.
And for people, yes, that is a thing that dogs do if they can't find food. Yeah. They will start eating your dead body if you're around and no other food's around.
Yeah, of course, because they're just an animal and you're meat. So, yeah, of course they will. And the way that they dealt with it, not making the dog a monster, just an added stress on the main character, but not portraying it as a monster. I really liked that. There was some weird tie-ins with it though. Like there was a tie-in with Bag of Bones for some reason. Okay. But yeah, overall, I really, really liked the movie. I liked it a lot. And the only real negative that I would have to say about it is while the script was great, the acting was great, the filmmaking itself didn't really have like a voice. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was the filmmaking in terms of the direction and the cinematography were fairly bland. Yeah. There was a nice shot sort of here and there, but there was no voice, no personality to the filmmaking. It was the script and the acting that carried the whole thing. Yeah. And if it had been directed by a director that had a voice and could bring it to the project, I think it would have benefited a lot. But that being said, I still really, really enjoyed this movie. It was a really good movie, and I recommend that everybody go see it. And here's the thing. It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix original. I should mention that. It was the first Netflix original anything that I'd seen and actually liked. Right. I usually fucking hate Netflix original shit.
Now I know what you're talking about. I have heard of that. I just haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, so it's on Netflix. You can go watch it right now. And yeah, it's good. It's really good. Same with did you have anything to ask about that movie?
Not about that movie, but there's another Netflix original called 1922, which is a Stephen King adaptation.
I wanted to mention that. This is a lot better than that movie.
Okay.
1922 was just fucking boring.
All right.
It was just boring. It had no purpose. It was just watching a guy go slowly insane in a really dull way.
All right. That movie, the only thing that ever attracted me to 1922 was Thomas Jane in it.
Sure. But
it looked boring otherwise, and it was boring.
The movie itself is insanely boring, but Gerald's Game is not. Gerald's Game is very entertaining, really interesting. I really liked it. My next movie is also a Netflix original.
All right.
Which is I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't even heard of it.
Okay. Have you seen Blue Ruin?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
Blue Ruin is a great movie. I love that movie so much. Mm-hmm. The main character in Blue Ruin, the actor who played him, directed this movie. Okay. So it has a very similar feel, because I'm pretty sure... now, the guy who directed Blue Ruin also directed Green Room.
Yes.
And those two are friends. So I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore even though it wasn't directed by the guy who directed Blue Ruin, it has a very similar feel. Except that I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore is a comedy. Whereas Blue Ruin and Green Room are not comedies in any way.
All right.
I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore is a dark comedy.
All right.
It has Elijah Wood in it also, which was really interesting.
That's fascinating.
And he was great in it. The actress who played the main character was great in it. Basically, what it's about is somebody breaks into our main character's house and steals her laptop, some medication, and her grandmother's silver, right?
All right.
She is becoming more and more pissed at society. Her whole thing is like, everybody are assholes. You know, everybody is a dickhead. Nobody wants to help anybody. And in this movie, she's not wrong. The cops don't help her. The cops don't want anything to do with her, and basically push her into taking action herself. It reminded me a little bit of Falling Down, right?
Yeah.
Just somebody completely sick and tired of society, except instead of, Falling Down, where he just goes ham on the entire city, basically.
Yeah.
In this one, she's just interested in getting her shit back and confronting the people who took it. And so that's the movie, is Elijah Wood is her neighbor, and he's a little bit odd, shall we say, and he helps her track down the people that took her shit, right? And they get, caught up in some crazy stuff where those people are trying to, rob a house and all this stuff, and she gets forced into helping them and stuff like that. And the whole thing is just, it's a dark comedy. The comedy is mostly played as, awkward comedy, which isn't really my kind of comedy. That being said, if you're into it, it was done really well. It's just not my style of comedy.
Your cup of tea. Yeah,
but the violence is really gritty and fucked up and bloody and gruesome. And overall, I did enjoy the movie. I thought it was good. So it was an interesting sort of it was an interesting week, because I usually hate Netflix original shit. Multiple times they've taken TV shows that I like and completely destroyed them. Mm-hmm. And their original shows usually aren't very good. Their original animes fucking suck.
Yeah.
And most of their original movies are terrible.
Yeah. The only original anime I think I like by them is a show called Neo Yokio, which is a show where they took whatever Jaden Smith said and turned it into a show, and it's just so batshit insane. It's fucking hilarious.
That sounds amazing. Is that literally?
It's a Netflix original anime with Jaden Smith in it as well.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay, that sounds... I'll have to look that up.
It's very fascinating.
But yeah, so Netflix original stuff, I'm really not down with most of the time, but these two movies, actually really good. So... if you have Netflix, go watch Gerald's Game and go watch I Don't Feel at Home in This I don't feel at home in this world anymore. That title is a mouthful.
Yeah. I would be surprised if somebody today doesn't have Netflix.
Oh, there are people who still don't.
Well, I'm sure.
Especially if you're Canadian and you have Netflix, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Because Canadian Netflix is awful.
Regular Netflix is awful, or at least U.S. Netflix is pretty awful.
U.S. Netflix is awful now. That's what's sad. It didn't used to be.
And the fact that Netflix literally said that they want to be the best broadcasting company.
Yeah, yeah, because they're trying to get rid of everything that isn't Netflix original. They want to only do their original shit, in which case I ask, what the fuck is the point of view anymore?
Especially if your shit sucks.
Yeah, and it's like, I have Netflix so that I have access to a bunch of movies that I don't currently own in my library.
That you don't have to spend the money to buy.
Yeah, not just to watch your shit. I want access to all of these other movies too, and if you take them out of your library, then what the fuck am I paying you for? Mm-hmm. You know?
Especially with rates going up.
Yeah, that's true. The rates keep going up.
They're expected to keep going up this year as well.
Their disc service is becoming increasingly more trash.
Yeah. Their disc service, they're also trying to offload pretty much all of their disc service from what I understand.
Yeah, like they don't want to do it anymore. That was the original point of Netflix, is that they would mail you a fucking movie.
Yep.
Now they just want to be a streaming service that only streams their own original stuff.
Which brings up the point of streaming services killing themselves recently, but that's another topic.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to move on to another topic, I'm fine, because I'm done talking about those movies. Go watch both of them. But do you want to talk about streaming services killing themselves?
All right. So streaming services have always been an odd thing for me. I don't really give a shit unless there's something on the streaming service that I haven't already seen or don't own and want to watch it. Otherwise, I don't care. Streaming looks like ass. Yeah. It always plays like ass. And they charge so much fucking money for it, it's not worth it most of the time.
Yeah, we talked about this recently when I was talking about DVD. We talked about it briefly.
Very briefly.
My point was basically, everybody has been saying, like, oh, streaming is going to kill physical media. Mm-hmm. And my point was just, then why the fuck do we still have DVDs? Like, we haven't even moved past DVDs. If streaming was going to kill anything, it would have been the DVD. And we still have DVDs for reasons I don't understand. But that's a different rant.
Oh, shit. What did you do?
Oh, I think it's just the monitor.
Oh, god damn it.
The whole thing's falling apart.
This is what happens when you get angry.
Okay.
Stop getting so angry.
I hit the table and knocked the power cord out of our headphone monitor. Anyway, so yes, that was a different rant in a different episode, and we're not going to talk about it again. Point is, streaming sucks, right? Mm-hmm. Which is why I don't think it's going to replace physical media, because...
Not anytime soon.
No, because, like, people like you and I are one thing where we're really sort of intensely into the idea of quality and finding the best version of a movie and you know, bit rates and all that kind of stuff. It's important to us. Most people don't really care, but I think that's changing. People are moving on to, you know, 4K TVs, 4K HDR TVs, and etc. And they're trying to, you know, stream 4K streams, and they're finding out that they don't look good.
No.
They just don't. Like,
because streaming can't handle the bitrate of 4K.
Yeah, in order to stream... Okay, we should talk about bitrate very, very briefly.
Very briefly.
Bitrate is... essentially, without going into too much detail, the quality of the video, right? So when you're looking at a Blu-ray, right, has a very high bit rate, really good quality video. Mm-hmm. Same thing with 4K Blu-ray, really high bit rate. When you're looking at streaming, whether it be something like Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or even YouTube, right, the bit rates are drastically lower in order for their servers to be able to handle that stream. So this is the clusterfuck of streaming.
Yep.
Now, and it's especially true if you try to stream 4K and then watch a 1080p Blu-ray. The Blu-ray will blow it out of the fucking water every time. Streaming is trash.
With it being trash and people actually starting to care about what their image looks like, you have all of the streaming companies making piss poor decisions.
Yeah.
Netflix with trying to offload everything but its originals. Hulu just becoming a fucking mess. Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Oh, Hulu is all over the place. Yeah. Hulu is crazy.
Yes. Yeah. Amazon Instant Video never really has anything interesting in the first place.
Amazon Instant pisses me the fuck off. It is the only streaming service that has actively ripped me off, I think. I bought 12 Years a Slave. Right? Yeah. I bought it in HD. It refuses to let me play it in HD.
Yes,
no matter what I do, it will not let me have the HD video that I fucking paid for and will only stream it to me in like 320p. It's not even DVD quality. It's less than DVD quality when I paid for 1080. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, and the quality options being one of the only streaming services to actually have quality options.
Amazon? I don't remember seeing quality options on Amazon because I fucking looked because I wanted to turn the fucking thing onto HD.
There are
could
quality
not
options.
Find them.
There's a little, I think it's a gear icon at the top that you click it and it lets you choose the resolution, but the resolution is like good, better, best. Those are your selections. Okay. And it doesn't tell you what those mean.
Netflix used to have quality options.
It doesn't really anymore.
In as much as SD or HD, it doesn't even tell you if it's playing in HD anymore. Like, it used to have that indicator. They got rid of that, too. Netflix is a clusterfuck when it comes to 4K especially.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to stream 4K on your computer, you have to have a specific processor from Intel to do it, which should be illegal in my opinion, because there's no actual technical reason why that should be true.
Yeah.
There's no technical reason why my computer shouldn't be able to stream 4K. They just lock it to a specific Intel processor or a specific line of Intel processors, their newest ones. You have to have one of them to stream 4K from Netflix.
Yes.
And even if you do that, you get that, there's no indication anywhere on Netflix telling you that it is indeed streaming in 4K. And because 4K streaming is so compressed, you have to just take their word for it anyway.
Yeah.
Right? So that's fucking stupid.
And that's one thing that NVIDIA's actually in trouble for, because games do this too based on graphics cards, whether they choose to partner with NVIDIA or Intel or AMD. NVIDIA's actually, I don't know if it finished, but they were in trouble very recently for allegedly doing that with some games.
Yeah, well,
legal trouble.
That shouldn't be news to anybody, though.
Yeah.
Both NVIDIA and AMD have been doing that for years.
Intel as well.
Yeah, well, Intel as well. All of them do that. But when it comes to my movies, don't fuck with my movies, Intel, God damn it. But yeah, ultimately, it's not that big a deal to me because I will always seek out a physical copy of a movie that I care about. But if I don't have the money to go and buy that physical copy right away, it's nice to have a catalog available where I can go watch it. And that used to be Netflix.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore.
No, not anymore.
They're booting everything off of their library just so that they can have only their in-house productions.
Yeah. Booting and raising the prices.
And raising the price. Then you have Amazon, which is just
a fucking mess.
It's trash. Hulu is trash.
Hulu's always been garbage.
But okay, because Hulu's gonna change now because
the Fox buyout.
Yeah, because Disney owns them now.
Yeah.
So who knows what's gonna happen with that? It's just gonna turn into the Disney repository. And
then from there,
well, you also have YouTube doing their own thing, where it's like you can rent movies on YouTube.
Yeah, rent or buy a movie on YouTube. But
does anybody ever do that on YouTube?
I think I've only done that one. My dad did that like once, like 8 years ago.
Cat, what the fuck are you doing? Where do you rent movies? Like,
where do I rent
movies? If you're
movies?
Gonna rent to stream, where do you do it?
I think the only place I've ever rented to stream from was Amazon Instant Video like 4 years ago.
Okay. So. I actually do it a lot, but I do it from iTunes. iTunes has had some issues in the past, where it's like sometimes the the video would just give up every 20 minutes, and you would have to play it again. They fixed that. Yeah, they've had a few things, but overall, they're actually a really good service for streaming. But not everybody uses iTunes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's fucking depressing that it's the only halfway decent one.
So we have that. And then we have Warner Bros. Creating their own streaming service for, DC movies and stuff like that. And there's a show, they've specifically announced a show called Young Justice, which is about essentially Teen Titans with a different name. And that's got a third season. It hasn't had a season since like 2011.
Is it not just like young versions of the Justice League?
No, it's not. It's, usually side characters.
Okay.
Like Robin and Aqualad and that. But that got renewed for a third season last year. The third season, with that, they announced is going to be the first show on their new streaming service.
Yeah, because everybody has to have... Okay, so...
Yeah.
This,
and then...
Did you have anything else to say about that?
Not about that, but about Disney pulling their stuff from Netflix for their own thing.
Yeah, see, this is the major problem with streaming, right? Because, like we said, you used to be able to go to Netflix and have a really good selection. Yeah. You used to be able to go to Hulu, and even like Hulu was interesting because you could watch their stuff for free, but they would insert ads just like TV, and that was fine. But it doesn't fucking work most of the time anymore. And
most of the time they've locked their shows behind a paywall.
Yeah, exactly. But now everybody is splitting off into their own services. So it's like Disney is going to have their service. Warner Brothers is going to have their service. HBO has their own fucking streaming service.
Right, they do.
CBS has their own fucking streaming service. And it's like, I can't pay for all this shit. You know what I mean? It's so many different fucking services that you're going to end up paying hundreds of dollars a month just to watch the stuff that you want to watch. It's unsustainable.
And that, along with people getting their heads out of their asses about these companies, is starting to cause a very interesting decline in the streaming service popularity and, I guess, usability and everything.
Yeah, and of course, all of those services, plus
Netflix YouTube Red as well.
YouTube Red, all of those services. Let's not even get into like the anime streaming services. Holy God,
there's so many of them.
There's so many, and they're so expensive.
Yes. Like Crunchyroll used to be very cheap and even offer stuff for free.
Well, Crunchyroll still offers stuff for free.
It offers stuff for free, but now it's insanely expensive, and you only get very few stuff for free.
No,
from what I know.
As far as I know, you can watch almost anything on Crunchyroll for free. It just inserts ads.
A lot of stuff I've seen is locked behind a paywall now.
It might have changed because I watched Wandering Sun on Crunchyroll for free. By the way, that's a great anime.
Yes.
Wandering Sun. Have you seen it?
I've seen a little bit of it.
Okay.
Just enough to know it's good.
Anyway, so yeah, it's entirely unsustainable. I mean, you want to talk about the shit going down with net neutrality,
Well, yeah, that on top of it as well.
This is what it looks like. Now, that's not to say that this is a product of losing net neutrality.
No, it's been going for a while.
I'm just saying, like, this should have been an early warning sign where it's like all of these different companies are gating all of their stuff behind all of their own streaming services so that you have to, pick and choose like a fucking cable package which streaming services that you want or can afford. So, you wanted to watch that HBO show? Well, fuck you. You're already paying for Netflix, right? It is ridiculous. Now, I don't want to get into the whole should the government step in, should the government not step in sort of argument, like how much power should the government have over what, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I don't want to get into that. But what I will point to is there was a time in Hollywood where every production company owned their own theaters. And the government stepped in and said, you guys can't do that, right? I'm not going to sit here and go over all of the history behind that because that's going to take hours. But if you're interested in that, go look it up because it really does pertain to what we're seeing now in streaming.
Yes.
It's essentially exactly the same thing.
We're entering a regression in the modern age to that sort of thing.
Yeah, because politicians right now don't understand and aren't equipped to deal with modern technology, even when the modern technology is mirroring shit that we've already made laws for. You know what I mean? So streaming is a clusterfuck right now.
Complete clusterfuck. And it doesn't look like it's letting up anytime soon.
No, it's just going to get worse from here. I'm sure there will be a time where it's dealt with, but not for a long time. It's going to get worse. You know, it wouldn't even surprise me if, you know, take Disney, for example. Okay, Disney has their own streaming. It wouldn't even surprise me if they broke it down and sectioned it off into different streaming services that you have to pay for. So it's like,
the Disney Vault section.
Yeah. Oh, you want Disney cartoons? That's this service. Do you want, Disney,
Disney
like Star
movies,
Wars and Marvel and all that kind of stuff? Oh, that's this service. So if you want both of those things, you have to pay for both of them. You know, it would not surprise me if, and not just Disney, but if multiple companies started doing that shit, breaking up their library into multiple different services.
And that's something I fear. Because on the outside, for companies like this, it looks like an appealing business move.
Yeah, that's the thing, is people have to understand, like, people love to get pissed at corporations, but what you have to understand is corporations are amoral, right? You can't really get mad at them because they're doing what corporations do. The only purpose of a corporation is to make more money. So, of course, they're going to do every slimy, underhanded tactic to achieve that goal, right? But that's why there has to be somebody somewhere saying, okay, no. Because corporations aren't going to do it. Because corporations are amoral. They don't
just
care
about the bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. So if anything's going to happen, somebody outside of the corporations is going to have to step in. And from what we're seeing, fucking Ajit Pai, not going to happen anytime soon.
And that's what's sad to me is that it's so easy to fix this, but nobody wants to.
Yeah, this isn't even a hard fix. You're right. And yeah, just there's nobody around competent enough to do it. Because I mean, you know, these corporations also have their grubby hands all over our politicians.
Yes. And what's sad is the people who fought for net neutrality back in 2012, I think, is when they last voted on it. A lot of these big companies like Google and Amazon and all that fought against it, and it stayed. This time, I think the only person who fought against it was Pornhub. That was literally like the only person who actually said something.
Pornhub as a company is actually kind of awesome. It's ridiculous that, a porn company is one of the best companies online right now.
Yep. Well, because they know their business is in danger with this. Because everybody, all of the ISPs are going to start locking porn behind a paywall, or just locking it out entirely.
And to be fair, this is a separate topic from the streaming services, but
I mean, Pornhub's a type of streaming service.
It is, but
not the kind we're talking about.
No.
But
yeah. So streaming is depressing. Go buy physical media.
Yes.
It's better anyway.
Much better.
Yeah.
It looks better. It doesn't have interruptions.
Yeah.
Like streaming.
It's just a shame that it can get really expensive, which is why most of my movies come from used sources.
Yep.
Used movie stores are your friend if you love movies as much as we do. I do buy new shit, clearly, but when I buy something new, it's usually Criterion or Shout Factory or
Arrow
or whatever other sort of, the Apocalypse Now special edition thing that I have, or Lawrence of Arabia, the big box that I have. I'll buy all that stuff new, but if there's not really a particular version of a movie that I'm after, I'll just pick it up used, because why the fuck not? It's cheaper, And yeah, you can get into the whole conversation of like, well, then you're not, the artists who made that movie that you're buying aren't really seeing any of the money. That's a different conversation for a different day.
Yeah, that's
right?
something we could argue for hours.
Yeah. Physical media is your friend. It looks better. It has more shit on it, and nobody can take it away from you.
Mm-hmm. Behind the scenes, for sure, is like a big bonus for me when looking for that, and streaming doesn't have that.
Yeah. That's not true.
Well, most streaming doesn't have that.
When you buy a movie on iTunes, it comes with special features.
Yeah.
Same thing with Amazon, I think.
Sometimes.
But
generally, streaming doesn't have bonus features to it.
Certainly not on Netflix. Yeah.
No. Which is something that's sad because I wish they'd put like the commentaries in with the movies.
If you could switch over to comment, I don't even think you can do commentaries on iTunes. They just have behind the scenes videos.
Yeah, which is sad because I love the commentaries of movies.
But that's my big thing though, is that nobody can take it away from me once I own it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Netflix, anytime they want to drop something from their catalog, they just do it like that.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit. And it's fucked me over several times.
Oh, yeah. Same here. I've seen stuff from the top of my queue go into the saved portion and never return.
Yeah. Yep. And it's really depressing because there were some really good movies on Netflix that just aren't there anymore. Like Man from Nowhere isn't there anymore. Just, it's really depressing to see good movies go away.
Yeah. And I know they decide to do that as well as making room for their own shit.
Yeah.
Is that the licensing fees cost them too much because licensing is different than DVDs.
Yes.
Because licensing, you have to pay an active license for it. When you buy a Blu-ray or DVD, the Netflix can do whatever the fuck it wants with it as long as they're not showing it in public or, pirating it.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about Netflix renting out.
Yes, renting out DVDs.
Yeah, the licensing is different for that than it is for streaming.
Yep.
Yeah, because they have to pay an active fee for the stream, whereas the DVD, they just have the disc and they can rent it out.
Yep. Or multiple copies of the disc.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This whole thing just makes me depressed. Blue Ruin was another one that was on Netflix.
Yes, it was.
Buy physical media for the love of God.
Yeah, and for me, I was looking through. You want to know how I ended up just watching what I've mentioned here? I was looking through Netflix for something to watch, and I couldn't find something that either grabbed my interest or I haven't seen already.
Yeah. Yeah, the last thing, I watched a movie on Netflix today with Francisco. Mm-hmm. We watched it because it was shit. we went digging through the horror movies on Netflix and found the funniest looking one that we could find and just watched it and shit on it. And Netflix is great for that because Netflix has a bunch of shit on it. So if you want to just find a terrible movie to laugh at, then Netflix is your go-to place. But if you want to find actually good movies, not so much anymore.
Nope. And even less day by day.
And the other big thing about this is, when you look at all of these streaming companies splitting off, charging more and more for their catalogs, having more to pay for different catalogs, at a certain point, people start getting pissed. And you know what happens when people can't legally get a hold of their of the movies that they want to watch?
Piracy.
Yeah, piracy. When you make it so monumentally difficult or expensive for people to do what it is that they want to do, they're just going to find another way to do it.
For free.
And you're going to lose money. When people who would happily give you the money for the product that they want because it's too hard to get or too expensive, they're just going to get it for free. Because pirates make it so much easier than legally obtaining it. That's been true for years. It's like pirating video games, Pirates will just strip out all the copyright protection and make it easier for the end user than, obtaining that game legally. I mean, half the games that you get legally now are loaded down with copyright protection, make it hard to install, make it hard to uninstall, make it hard to play.
Make it run like shit.
But then you go,
make you always be online.
Yeah, make you always be online, but then you go get the illegal pirated version, and it fixes all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is what happens when companies get greedy, is people don't fuck around and just go around them. That's always been true. It's going to continue to be true, and if you keep pushing the consumer, you're going to lose money.
And what's sad is currently in modern day, pirates are generally more trustworthy than the actual companies.
Yes, they are. That's how fucked up this whole situation is now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's true. Companies are so viciously greedy at this point. Pirates almost look like, you know,
saints.
White knights. They're like, you know, rob from the rich and give to the poor. Here, have your movies that you want to watch. Have your games that you want to watch. Yeah. Whereas the companies are just like, oh, you want this movie?
Well, fuck you.
Well, how much money are you gonna give me for it?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not enough. I need more money. Just, yeah, the whole thing just makes me really depressed. I mean, we're rambling at this point. It's just, it's so fucking frustrating.
Very,
like,
very
do you have
frustrating.
any idea how many times I have, you know, gone on to iTunes and they don't have the movie that I want, so I go onto Netflix, they don't have it. You go onto Amazon, they don't have it even if I wanted to deal with them. Yep. And you're stuck in this vortex of bullshit where this movie that you will happily pay for, nobody has.
Or you go to the store and it's like $40.
Well, when it comes to Disney, exactly. Yeah. Like, I have been on a Disney animation kick lately.
Yeah.
I watched Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, Pocahontas, Princess and the Frog. I think there was another one that I watched. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I wanted to watch Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen that movie since I was a kid. The last time I tried to watch it, it made me want to vomit. But, you know, I study movies. It's what I do, and I've been looking into Disney animated stuff. So I wanted to give The Little Mermaid a chance again, right?
Yeah.
Nobody had it. I could not rent it. I could not buy it if I wanted to, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. And it's the same thing that happened with Lady and the Tramp. You know, I was looking for Lady and the Tramp to give to my mom for Christmas. Nobody had it.
Mm-hmm.
The only place I could find it was at Bookman's. They had one copy of it, and it was a Blu-ray in a DVD case, right? It was really weird. It was the only place I could find it. I could not find it new anywhere. So even if I was ready to just throw my money at Disney, but apparently they didn't want it, right? It's fucking ridiculous. When you make things hard for the consumer to obtain, they will find other ways. Luckily, I found a legal copy. It was a fucking weird version of it, but I found it. I don't have much more to say than just stop taking my movies away.
Mm-hmm.
So is that all for this week?
Did you have anything else on your notes to talk about?
Nope, not other than our weekly recommendation.
All right. For what I chose, mine a bit different because it's not a narrative film. It's actually a documentary.
Okay.
But it's a documentary that everybody should see. It's called Some Kind of Monster.
Okay.
It's about the making of the Saint Anger album from Metallica. And the reason people should watch it is it's a movie that gives you an unfiltered look into the music industry.
Okay.
It shows you all the nitty-gritty. It shows you what the band's going through at its lowest point when they were about to, just call it a day and say, fuck it, we're not a band anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes you through their journey of all the hardship they went through in making that album, personal and actually record-wise. And, dealing with one band member that had just quit and trying to find another.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's a fantastic movie. It's a fantastic documentary, I should say.
It sounds interesting. I have a few documentaries that I could recommend in the future.
Yeah.
But not right now.
But yes, that's my recommendation. Metallica's Some Kind of Monster.
Okay. I have something that I want to recommend, but I'm going to have to find some specific information on it first.
All right.
So, for now, this week, the movie I'm going to recommend is A Clockwork Orange.
All right.
I don't really know why I chose this one this week. I just, the past couple of weeks, I think I've chosen some, I guess, more mainstream, movies.
Yeah.
This week, I wanted to choose a weird movie. You know what I mean?
Well, you definitely hit it there, I guess.
Yeah, so A Clockwork Orange is a Stanley Kubrick movie. It is one of my favorite Stanley Kubrick movies. It might be the weirdest Stanley Kubrick movie.
Yeah, I could see that.
I will not even attempt to tell you what it is about because it is almost impossible to just sort of describe. You just have to see it. But in very, very broad strokes, it is about a psychopath, Alex.
Played by Malcolm McDowell.
Great performance. And he is captured, and society basically forces their cure, in air quotes, on him, and it arguably does more damage than good. And yeah, I was about to just ruin the ending. I won't do that.
What happened to we don't care about spoilers?
Not for our recommendations, though.
All right.
Yeah, like the recommendations are stuff that we want people to go see and experience it. Yeah, so...
Okay, I can see it.
But yeah, Clockwork Orange, Stanley Kubrick. If you're not familiar with Stanley Kubrick, if you've never heard of A Clockwork Orange, go pick it up. Go experience something different.
Yes.
Right? There is a digibook available of A Clockwork Orange that has some very nice special features in it. So, if you're into those special features.
Oh, God.
Anyway, yeah, Clockwork Orange. Fascinating movie. I would hesitate to call it enjoyable. It's a movie that's more intriguing, more interesting than it is just enjoyable.
Yeah.
Don't go watch it if you want to just sit down with the family and have a nice family movie night. No.
No.
The movie is an experience, and a fucked up one at that.
Yes.
But it's a great movie. So, yes, that is my recommendation, and I guess that's all we have to talk about this week.
Yep. I also recommend Clockwork Orange.
Yeah,
I'll second it.
How could you not?
Yep.
This has been a rambly week because, in all honesty, there's not much to talk about in terms of news or releases. It's the beginning of the year. All of that stuff. People are still focused on last year. So once interesting news actually starts coming out or interesting releases start being announced, then we'll talk about that shit. But until that happens, you're stuck with us rambling about whatever the fuck it is we want to talk about.
Yeah, usually movies we just watched.
Yeah, pretty much. So, since there is no official outro to this podcast yet.
There's never going to be one, let's just face it.
Yeah, so I guess suck a dick and go watch a good movie.
Definitely go watch a good movie. Suck a dick, that's up to you.
No, I'm telling you to suck a dick, all right?
And if I have to.
I don't even mean that in the shitty way, oh, come on, dude, suck a dick. No, I mean literally go suck a dick. It can be fun. If you haven't tried it, that's my recommendation this week. Instead of a movie, go suck a dick,
All right, I think we've talked long enough.
I think we're done now.
Yeah.
Go suck a dick.